Brave Maker Show is hosted by Tony Gapastione and Kyrstina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is Tony Gapastione. I'm coming at you live from Redwood City, California. I am a writer and director of film and an actor. I live in the most beautiful place, Bay Area. It's super sunny and wonderful today, and I'm joined, as always, by my creative collaborator and co-host.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? I'm Kyrstina Jackson, coming to you from Dublin, California in the East Bay. It is a stunningly beautiful day. It's pretty windy outside, which I really don't mind because I'm inside. So, yeah, Tony, it's good to be here on a Friday.
And a Friday,
Love picking up these Fridays with you.
We are doing this show with, by the way, my pronouns are he, him, his. I am in my Brave Maker studio. It's black background with the word Brave Maker really big. I'm wearing my You Are the Story shirt. I have brown hair and a little bit of stubble with some grayness coming through. That's my inclusive depiction of who I am portrayed to be in this moment.
And my pronouns are he, she, they, and I am sitting in front of a green plant background with some monarch butterflies. I'm sitting in a Will Power chair. I'm an African-American woman, and I'm wearing the King T'Challa shirt today with some purple blue ombre hair. Still rocking the comic book superhero mashups. Hey, Christine. Thank you. Yeah.
If you're listening and not watching live, we have commenters as always. So if you're watching live, please comment and say hi. Christine Burke says, bomb ass hair. She does have this purple blue. What is that called? Ambrosia? No, Umbria? What is it called?
It's a beautiful ombre. Purple into, royal blue.
Yeah, my daughters love that kind of stuff.
Yeah?
I do. I love it. I do.
And your studio is looking perfect. Your lighting is perfect.
Thank you. Hashtag K-Ray Cosplay if you want to see all the mashups that Kyrstina has done. So we got to start with a little bit of a bummer adjustment. Go with the flow. This is show business. Yeah. The show must go on. So we were supposed to have CJ Jones live today on our show. CJ Jones is a deaf comedian and actor, most known for his role in Baby Driver 1, which we can talk about Driver 2, but he is not able to show up today, and that's not his fault. It was because we had some challenges in interpreters, and we were able to find an interpreter, unfortunately too late. So I just want to say a huge shout out to Pro Bono ASL, who got back to me in such the nick of time. Rory from Pro Bono ASL got Kenton on the horn and Gabby, and they were able to join us just right before the show, and it did not work out. So we're super bummed. But Christine, you can share more on this, but we have a great show for you because we're going to be chatting. But anything you want to say about that in the process? And
for sure. Well, first and foremost, I have to take full responsibility. I really dropped the ball on this, and Charles Jones, we got to have you back on the show. We are rescheduling with CJ. He will be here to talk about his career because it's amazing. And we actually had him on the Will Queens podcast not too long ago, and he's just a phenomenal human being. So we will definitely have him back. And I apologize, but we will pull this show back together and let everyone know when that will air. And we did discover a lot of really amazing organizations that help with interpreters. So reach out to us. We'll include the links in the show notes, and hopefully that will smooth the process for many of you who are looking to work with deaf talent and you're not really sure how to smooth out that communication process. And I'm going to learn to sign. How about that?
Yeah.
I was really encouraged by that. Yeah.
So you and I, let's just talk. We're going to interview each other for the show today, and we have people who are watching live. Thanks, Carl, for popping in. Brindisi is popping in. It's so great to see people live, and we welcome questions. If you want us to chat about anything today, I think based on how things went down for this today, I want to talk a little bit about disappointment in our creative careers, or rejection, or when things don't go the way that you plan. I'll start. That's kind of been one of the crux of my journey in this business, is things not going the way that I planned. I have had so many redirections with how I thought my film career was going to go, right? I thought things were going to happen a lot quicker for me when it came to getting a feature film made. I'm doing my first feature film in June. I'm 45 and I'm doing my first feature film in June. I didn't think that was going to happen. And that's partly on me, maybe partly because I waited too long. I made too many excuses. I let people's opinions sway me. And I'm still getting some of that even now. People saying, why do a feature film, we're still having a pandemic, or why do a feature film when you don't have all the money in, or why do a feature film, whatever, fill in the blank with all of these things. And I just told myself, I'm going to make it no matter what. I'm going to put the date on the calendar, and I'm just going to let that go, let that drive me. And so that I don't give up, I'm trying to solve every problem. I don't care if I have to find the locations, if I have to cook the food for the set, for the actors, if I have to use my own home, which I am, I'm just like, I'm going to make it happen. And then the other thing I was thinking about is how many times I've been so close to getting a gig or booking a job. I was screen testing for this hosting gig for a show that is now no longer a thing, but it was on the CW. It was this, it was kind of like a pop culture show where they interviewed, kind of like what we do, which is funny to think about, right? 15 years ago, I was doing callback after callback. I probably had 4 or 5 callbacks. They had screen tested me with the woman who was going to be the other co-host, and it went well. And I shot the pilot episode for this. And then they decided to cancel the show. And it was heartbreaking. I had spent 3 months of my life thinking this was the direction. I shot the pilot, and then it died. And that was really, really difficult to get to a place where you think this is happening and it's not. But in some small way, I go, wow, 15 years later, we kind of braved our own way. We made our own show, and I get to host it. I think that's pretty cool and pretty divine in some way, right?
It's definitely really divine. But I think also we have to acknowledge the business that we're in. Yeah. Like, you have to have such thick skin, because there is so much rejection and so much heartbreak, and things don't come together. And you could put in so much, like you said, like months and months and so much time and energy into something, and then it doesn't pan out. And so it's really hard. And so, Tony, I think you have a little bit better skill at redirecting. And if you could tell, I'm like kind of somber. Like, I feel like, Kyrstina, you kind of dropped the ball with this, but you got to bounce back. And we're here doing this. So how do you bounce back? How did you bounce back from that?
I definitely feel that depression and discouragement, not in a medical or clinical way, but in an emotional way, is something that I definitely have to navigate through. I'm definitely someone who's all up in my feelings. I'm definitely a feeling person. I'm trying to listen to my gut, my instincts more. So when you feel, something is going to happen, I'm kind of overly optimistic to a fault. I think my glass is always more than half full. It's 3/4. It's kind of overflowing. Sometimes I think everything's going to work out. So that's part of my issue. I think bouncing back for me, usually I have to feel it. I have to, shed a few tears. I have to be emo for a little bit. And then I just cope by creating and turning that into something else.
Cope by creating. Yes.
Right?
I like that a lot.
I guess that's the thing. I cope by creating, which I'm shouting out to Alex, who's one of our producers, who does our quotes, because you get to quote. Alex is quoting us today, not just the featured guest. So we gotta be profound, I think, in some way.
Well, that's pretty profound. That, because I do that too. I do cope by creating, and I just didn't think of it. I thought of it that you're just distracting yourself. But really, it's how I'm coping. I'm sitting with these feelings. They're not that great. But I have these other cool projects to work on. So let me create and put my mind and my focus on that. And that's phenomenal advice. It's beautiful for actors, creators, writers. So much disappointment.
Mm-hmm. I think that is something too we hear a lot about in on our live show here. We hear a lot about having multiple projects, so you're not just what's that phrase? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think there is something to that, because if you're putting all your energy into one thing, especially here when the creative, the film and TV and music industry, the arts are so subjective. If you put all of your time and effort and energy into one thing, and it, whatever the quote unquote flopping, however that might be defined, it's like you don't have to find your value in just that one thing. It's like, hey, I did this thing, I did this film, I put this music, this song out, I created this whatever, this fill in the blank for you, whatever it is, and I put it out in the world, and if it gets its wings and it flies, awesome. But if not, then I did it. And going back to that show that I was on, the deck for, I put my best foot forward. I did everything I could, everything that was in my control I did, and it just wasn't meant to be. But thankfully, I had other things that were going on too. I was, writing scripts at the time. I was trying to launch film projects. I wasn't just hoping that this hosting gig was going to be my end all be all. I have to have multiple plates, going at one time. Carl says, talk resiliency, adapt, change, and stay positive. Support from friends and family. Together we build. Together we build together. We stand to support all. Brindisi says, right on, never give up. Just dream and go for it is my model.
Well, I love this. Everyone's being like so beautiful and supportive. And I will say, to go back to Carl's statement, as far as, letting your friends and family support you and keep moving forward, is that also I learned a while back after experiencing like a huge disappointment, kind of like that show that you shot, the pilot, is not to become so performance-based, not to have such a performance-based sense of self. So when you're doing and creating, that becomes like almost your entire identity. And when you're not doing those things, you kind of forget who you are. And so I went through that experience when I thought I was going to play pro soccer. I got injured, and then I didn't know who I was without that. So definitely it's important to have a inner life that has nothing to do with your title or career or your spouse or your car or externals, but your internal life. So yeah, this is reminding me to get back to that, remembering who you are and self-care, and you're not what you do. And sometimes you got to redirect. Yeah.
So talk about that a little more. When you say have something else, for 19 years of your life, or however long, you really thought soccer was that thing. When you lost that ability to compete, what did you find was the inner focus or identity that rose up from there?
It took a really, really long time. Actually, it took years to understand. It was really 2012, and I was injured in 2002. So it took really like a decade. And what I was doing was distracting myself. I was, I went to business school. I started a company, like just doing all this stuff to distract myself from the pain of losing that dream, instead of realizing, well, you're more than your body. You're more than what you do. So just because you can't play soccer anymore, you can't pick up your little sister from school, like the physical part of the life, you have an inner life. Like what is the phrase? You are a spiritual being having a human experience. That understanding that statement, not just letting that go in one ear and out the other. Like you are a spiritual being, and you're more than, and this is so fleeting. Like you and I, like we're here today and gone tomorrow. You know what I mean? So definitely think about your heart and your inner life, and just being good on your own, being good to just be still and be quiet and do nothing. Yeah.
You talked about distracting yourself and maybe even redefining that phase of your life, because I think sometimes we feel as if we have to figure everything out with every project or every endeavor, as opposed to going, you know what, I think I'm going to try to start a company, or I think I'm going to try to write a film, or I think I'm going to try this, or I might just practice being an entrepreneur. Because we are so sometimes as humans focused on the end result, like you said, or our identity is all about what we do. And I think as a father who's watching kids grow up, I know that phrase, what are you going to be when you grow up, is so stifling at times. And it feels as if you have to know. And I feel even as an adult now and today, I'm trying to give myself permission to say, it might not work out. I'm going to make a film. I'm going to start a nonprofit. I'm going to whatever. I'm going to do these things because that's what it feels like I want to do now. And it's okay. And I wonder if we just need to give ourselves more permission, to try things and to fail and to say, I'm going to go down this. I'm going to go down this way. I'm going to go down this and spend some time, and I'm going to spend some money. And at the end, maybe it's okay to go, you know what? I don't like this anymore, or it didn't work out. Like for instance, right now, this is real time. Bravemaker is launching its online film festival June 5th. Okay. Which I should pull this up here. We just launched a new website and we have all these films. I'll pull that up in a second for those of you who are watching live, but I'll put it in the show notes too for the audio replay. But I also I had been dreaming about doing a pitch festival, right? So for the past, 4 or 5 months, I've been promoting the pitch festival. We got some really great jurors, people who are working in Hollywood right now. One of them, Jeffrey Lieber, who is the director, or excuse me, the creator of the ABC television show called Lost. He was going to be on the pitch fest. We were going to have Angela Harvey, who is a showrunner working with Disney Plus. And so I was just really excited this was going to happen. Then all of a sudden, nobody signs up. Nobody signs up for the pitch fest. So I'm at this point of going, well, I got to cancel the pitch fest. And I kind of felt sad, like, I had failed because this big dream of mine, like I wanted to give away $1,000. I wanted to help somebody, launch their idea, but it's just not the right time, and that's totally okay. But we have a film fest right now. We have an online film fest that people can watch films. We have 30 films from filmmakers from all over the world that are available to watch. And I go, you know what? Like, that is okay. One thing worked. One thing is going to move forward, but one thing is not going to work. And that's okay. It's not a failure. It just didn't work. And that's okay. So I'm trying to help myself look at that differently and not, get all in my depressed emotional state because I think I want to be okay with trying new things. I want to be okay with experimenting. I think that word practice, that word experiment, that word figure out and discover, if it doesn't go the right way or a way at all, it's okay to close the door and it's not a failure. What do you think about that?
I love that. And we recently had a guest on the show who was living that, Greg Russo, who many are just hearing about now. Maybe you knew of him before, but I just learned about his work, and he's been writing for decades and he loves to do it. And his approach is, it's not a means to an end. So there are no failures. He's just enjoying the journey. And he is someone who you could look in his eyes and see he really is just enjoying the journey, and he has massive success now, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful to watch. But he was, I believe, probably just as happy before because he was doing what he loved to do. So I think it's really important for us to always remember when we're putting our projects out there, and whether they quote unquote fail or succeed, we're doing what we love to do. We're doing that now. We're talking to people, we're communicating, we're sharing our projects and ideas. So I think it's about redefining what is failure, or just not even using that word. Like, what does failure mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's huge when it comes to finances and when it comes to making a living in this business. I think that is probably for me the pinnacle of the fear when it comes to failure. Like, can I live off of my creativity? Can I sustain my life and my family? Can I send my kids to college based on the creative work that I'm trying to do? We'll see. I don't know the answer to that question fully. When I make this feature film, Last Chance Charlene, in June, and edit it and go into post-production and complete it and send it out into the world, hopefully at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, whatever life it takes on, we'll have to see. Will we make our money back? Will we be able to sell it and see it on a streamer or something? Like, that's how I'm going to figure out if I'm gauging my success or not. And maybe another way I'll gauge success is, does this work that I create launch me into the next thing? Does it open another door? Does it help me do whatever I want to do next? And I always love the idea of defining success. Like I love hiring people. I love paying people.
Yeah.
I love giving other people jobs. So if I write these roles for actors and the DP and the crew, can I look at that as a way of being successful, that I gave other people opportunities to play and to use their skills and their passions
That's
and their
me.
abilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that should be included. How are you impacting the lives of others, especially for a production company where that's the number one goal? We want to elevate lives by sharing really brave stories. And in the process, we have to be incredibly brave ourselves.
It is. Yeah.
And and it's just the nature of the business. And I love it. I'll take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I was so drawn to that word brave, because it can be really kind of pretentious, in some way. And I get it. I remember, I think I told you about a filmmaker who didn't like that we were called Brave Maker because he used a wheelchair and he felt as if, what he was doing wasn't brave because of, how people, and correct me if I'm wrong, people in the disability community don't want to be pitied.
Inspiration porn.
Exactly. Inspiration porn. And I was saying, oh, that's not why I think you're a brave maker. I think any human being who tackles their fears is a brave maker. I don't care what abilities you have, that in like what we're talking about right now, in order to put your work out into the world, it's scary. It's, you're facing your fears of rejection for what people say about your work, your family. Will they think what you're doing is worth their attention or financial, support and resources? So I think that's why I like the word brave maker so much, because we really do have to put ourselves out there. You got to push through all of these things. I'm totally facing the imposter syndrome right now as we're, 17 days away from production on Last Chance Charlene. I'm feeling as if, the raising the money is on my shoulders. Some of the locations are on my shoulders, directing the act, I had to hire a lawyer. It's like, oh, so hard and so much, but it's worth it. And I want to do it because I have to, not meaning like I have to because there's, pressure. The have to is because it's an internal.
Yeah.
If I don't, I will be incomplete. I will be not fulfilling what I feel called to do.
I think that's super important that creatives follow that voice that is telling you, bring this story to life by any means necessary. Yeah. Listen to that voice. It's terrifying, and do it anyway.
Well, what's the terrifying voice for you right now? Because we've been talking a lot about your comic book. What's going on with that for you? What voices are you battling in your process?
So that brings us back. We usually open the show with how we're braving our way. And I've been braving my way with public solitude. I actually practiced that I did a show for Ability Path. Shout out to Ability Path. Fantastic organization that helps people with disabilities, intellectual. And I got up on stage and I sang in front of, and I hadn't been, if you imagine, this is COVID, I have not been out in a group of more than like 4 or 5 people. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting in front of like hundreds of people, and I'm studying at the Empower House Acting Studio. And part of the Meisner technique is to do something called public solitude. So you're going to behave as if all those hundreds of people are not looking at you and you're just like alone singing in your shower or whatever. And so that's what I've been doing, practicing that. And that's going to come in really helpful because I came up with a wild idea last night, Tony, that I am going to, because you got to write, like we're going to talk about money in a second, but in this business, you're always raising money. I'm just continuously, and you should just accept that. And like you've said before, like that's an opportunity for you to grow and to understand. And it's a gift that you give other people to be able to invest in your projects. So that's where I'm at. And I came up with this wild idea to make a list of like all the best songs that I love from superhero movies, and then dress up like a superhero, and then put on a show and raise money for my comic book. So that's what I'm doing right now. If you can imagine, that's taking a lot of courage, but I'm doing it. I was like, all right, you got to call Redwood City and find out if you need a permit. So start moving towards that.
Kyrstina, that's huge. That is
right.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, I'm watching some of the numbers go up on our live feed here. If you're just tuning in, my name is Tony Gapastione. I'm with my co-host, Kyrstina Jackson. We are chatting together today. We were supposed to have CJ Jones, deaf actor and comedian, with us today, but we are postponing that to reschedule. So if you tuned in thinking you were going to see him, you got us. Hopefully it's just as good. But we're talking about braving your way in the creative industry, and I want to just camp out on that idea for a second. First of all, what I just heard you say is super risky. Again, you're kind of facing your fears, you're braving your own way, but that's sometimes what you have to do to get your stuff made. You have to take a risk. You have to put yourself out there. You have to do things that scare you, and you have to, again, not to stand out for standing out's sake, but you are doing something that is going to help people or make people lean in a little bit. There's so much noise right now on social media, on the internet. People are so exhausted with all of the asks, the things that they are bombarded with every single minute of their lives. Buy this, watch this, come over here. There's so many things. But if you can make that a story, right? That's our mantra. You are the story. If you can make this a story, you're writing a comic book, beautiful, and you are going to use superheroes, which you do every week. You're doing this mashup, right?
Yeah, I'm living it.
Yeah, you've carved out a niche for yourself. K-Ray Cosplay, you've done this. It's I think it's really brilliant that you have done this. And I hope that as people are watching and listening right now, it's inspiring, because you have to find a way to tell your story. You have to find a way to make what you want to come out into the world. You have to bring it to life. You have to birth it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You know, nobody else is going to make your dreams come true but you.
Yep. And something really important that I learned in business school is you don't have to know every step of the way. You don't have to know how precisely. You just have to have a very strong why. Like, you have to believe 110% in why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, the mission of this comic book, what I wrote, I want to end poverty. And I know that sounds wild and ridiculous, but I want to end poverty and racism. And that was my focus when I started writing this story. And it started coming to life, and it just started to take on a life of its own. And I'm so excited about it. So that is my why. Cool. This is so cool. If you could, can you imagine that? We're going to end poverty in our lifetime, Tony. Like, that's it. We're done with that. And we're done with racism, because we're going to throw that in there. So I have a very strong why, and it gives me the courage to come up with wild ideas, like sitting on the corner in Redwood dressed as Spider-Man singing Hero by Nickelback.
Yeah,
that's essentially right.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this, because this is huge. I'm thinking about all of you out there who are trying to raise money and make stuff. Okay, this is huge. This is free, by the way. We do all this stuff for free for you all. We want to talk about raising money, and Kyrstina had mentioned this thing that is trying to become my mantra: is don't apologize for asking for money. I get so tired of the shame that comes from artists asking for money. No, that we're done with the shame. We're done with the pity me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I know this is no. I am offering you an opportunity to partner with me. I am giving you the honor. I'm giving you a gift of investing or donating into this project and putting your name and attaching your resources, hard earned at that, resources to this work, because I believe it's so powerful that it's going to make a difference, that it's going to entertain, it's going to touch, it's going to bring hope, it's going to impact our culture in some way. And so when you view your work like that you are bringing a gift to the world, then that's going to change the way that you ask for a partnership and ask for help. You don't have to hang your head. You do not have to feel bad. If people say no and people shame you, then bye. You don't need them. They don't get you. They're not the right partner. And that's where you have to walk away. And Kyrstina's saying, I'm going to go on the corner and sing Hero dressed as Spider-Man. Like, that's exactly the type of chutzpah. Chutzpah, is that the word? Like, that's the gall that you have to believe in your own self. Because when someone is so confident in believing in their project and talking about it in a way that it's as if you're presenting them with gold, like, here, I'm giving you gold, that draws people. That kind of confidence and belief in yourself draws people. And I had to learn that the hard way too. Like, when I made my first film, I did a Kickstarter campaign, and Kickstarters, I think at that point were just 30 days, but it was 30 days to raise $40,000. And we were 8 days left. And I think I had $32,000 with 8 days. Wow. I just went on the streets, Kyrstina, just like that. I went on the
Yep.
streets. I printed flyers. I went downtown Redwood City to
Yeah,
the train
yeah.
station, and I started introducing myself and passing out flyers and saying, go to my Kickstarter. This is my story. This is who stars in it. This is why I'm doing it. I gave them, exactly like you did, my why. I wanted to bring attention to the foster system. I wanted to help end gang violence. I wanted to value kids in the and we met our goal with like $1,000 more than we wanted. But that would not have happened if I just sat on my couch hoping and praying that it was going to happen. Like, you've got to take responsibility. You've got to be proactive and take initiative to see your dreams come true, to make your creative goals. Yeah.
And going back to what you said about shame, I think shame keeps a lot of us in our house and on our couch and with our mouth closed, instead of out there handing out flyers or singing on the corner. Like you said, enough of the shame. Like, be proud about your work, believe in your work, and get out there and find your people. Like, find your tribe, find the other people who believe in your why, who are just as passionate as you are and want to support you. And we should talk about our why for Last Chance Charlene, because you and I are very connected. The core of this story has touched both of our lives. And I think it's amazing that it takes so much to get to where you are right now. And now we're on the brink of bringing this story to life visually. So we should talk about that. Why is this important to us?
Yeah. Thanks for teeing me up there. So Last Chance Charlene is my first feature film. I wrote it in December of 2020. And I had already written another feature film that addressed the same story in a different way, about a family mourning the loss of death by suicide. And I wrote it because I've experienced that firsthand. My grandmother died by suicide. I had a good friend who also took his own life. And this happened within the context of 15 years of each other. And I had changed in the context of that 15 years, how I understood it. And I experienced a lot of stigma, especially from a faith community around that. And so, I cope by creating, right? That's what I said earlier. So I cope by creating. So I started writing around this subject, and I just kind of fell in love with this idea of doing a film around this topic. My first film, called The Thorns We Live With, is still in script form, sitting on a shelf with the goal of making it someday, but it's a larger cast, it's a larger film, and it was taking kind of a long time to get the funds. So I wrote a smaller film in a different world, if you will, that could be done in a smaller amount of time with a smaller cast and smaller amount of locations. And that's what birthed Last Chance Charlene. And we'll put the link in the show notes. It's bravemaker.com/Last Chance Charlene. And if you ever wanted to make a film, I'm also hoping that this can inspire you all to make your films. Because I wrote for my friends. I wrote a role for Kyrstina. I wrote a role for my friend Allison. And, I don't have access to big Hollywood producers who are going to help me raise the money. I pulled in my own friends and said, hey, first of all, Jessica Musgrave, who's been one of my longtime friends and producers, I said, here's another film for you to produce. And I pulled in people that I knew could make this happen, that would also be able to learn along the way too, that for them, this could be an opportunity for them to build their resume, their IMDb credits. And so, we're trying to raise the funds while we're in pre-production, which isn't always ideal, because you kind of want to have the funds before you roll cameras. But so far, we have raised $10,000 for a $50,000 budget. So if you do the math, that's about one week of production that we can do. So I've been on my Instagram. I even enlisted my daughter. She's been doing these images for me. So you see this little thermometer of the money going up. But we have been going hard, just asking people for donations, offering the gift of partnership. Carl, who is on here right now, thanks, Carl. He's watching live. He donated yesterday, and he shared on social media, and that's because he's a part of your acting community, Kyrstina. It's just
he is
super beautiful. It's happening little by little. So I hope that this story can inspire some of you all to make your films. And, Brave Maker is here to help people make their stories come to life. We have a fiscal sponsorship program and we have mentoring available. So this is, I'm have you seen those commercials? Like, it's like the hair club. The guy says, not only am I a customer, I'm the president, or I'm a whatever. Like, I'm not just the president, I'm a customer. So I feel that way too. I'm not just the founder of Rainmaker, but I'm also a customer. I'm trying to learn by doing,
Absolutely. And I've been learning so much from you. And I love that you're sharing this story as someone who struggled with thoughts of suicide as a teen. Yeah. I'm queer, and there just really aren't that many stories that are approaching the subject and showing it in a light where it feels approachable, where it feels like, oh, maybe I could have a conversation with an adult about the feelings that I'm having. It's just like struggling with thoughts of suicide is such a private struggle. And if you could imagine a young person seeing a movie like Last Chance Charlene, where it's, and Tony is funny, by the way, if you guys didn't know, he's hilarious, which you'll be finding out shortly when Massive comes out. He just is able to bring like humor to topics that can be so heavy and dark. And it's such a gift. And so it's wonderful to be a part of this project. That's why I'm super passionate about getting to that 50K, so you can bring this story to life. It's really important.
Thank you, Kyrstina. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think when you talk about being funny as well as dealing with hard topics, I mean, I have wept like a baby in fetal position and at the same, hour laughed until I couldn't hold myself up, in the middle of grief. And I think we all need to explore that and be honest about it. And hopefully, as you said, give more representation to stories like this, help people, help families, help individuals who are struggling or feel that, it's taboo to talk about their inner thoughts or find therapy. We want to normalize therapy. So yeah, we're hopefully going to be able to launch some cool partnerships. We're working on a potential workbook that will partner with Last Chance Charlene to help people through grief. So we've got a couple really cool therapists and psychologists that we've been talking to about creating a Last Chance Charlene workbook, which we're really excited about. And then I guess I should talk about real quick, we're launching some merchandise. So the film revolves around Charlene. Charlene is an actress who is also trying to break into her screenwriting career, but like so many creative people, she has to make ends meet with her graphic design business. So my friend Natalie, so shout out to Natalie, she created the design company, which is going to be called Tutto Bene. And we now have t-shirts that are going to be in the film that are available now on our merchandise store. So you can get a shirt that says Tutto Bene, and that is Italian for it's all good or good vibe. Like something like that.
Is that right?
Tutto means everything. Everything's good. When you're in Italy, the waiter will say, or the waitress would say, Tutto bene? Everything good? Tutto bene? Yeah, tutto bene. Everything's good. It's all good. So these t-shirts are now available on our merchandise website, ravemaker.com/merch, if you'd like to get one. And it helps support the film.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, this is something I'm learning too, is when you have to be resourceful, it's find any way to create an income, create revenue. So we're making a film, but then we're also hopefully going to have this workbook, and we're going to have merchandise, t-shirts, and we'll be able to partner with some musicians who are going to have music that can be purchased, or so all these little things that you can do. The same thing as you do your comic book, you're probably going to have t-shirts, right? You're going to have swag and things that people can buy that are going to be branded with your intellectual property. It's just cool. We're all learning how to do this together.
Yep. And it all helps us share our stories. And the stories aren't so important to share because we're trying to shatter the stigma around mental health.
Yes.
Can we talk about, we're human beings, and it could be so difficult to talk about the things that are keeping us from really rising and enjoying our lives and each other. And that shouldn't even be a thing. We should be able to call up, whoever we need to and just speak to each other more easily than we do now. Now there's just such a stigma around it that we keep it inside and we hide that part of us, and it's tragic. And I remember being in that space, so it feels good now. We're on here talking about things like struggling with thoughts of suicide, mental health issues, and it's great. This is the direction we want to move in. We're normalizing these conversations.
Yep. Put this in your phone. It's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. And I want to shout out to one of our listeners and watchers right now who's talking about coping with a suicide attempt around 2013. So, DC, thank you for posting this right now.
Thank you.
I know that's a very vulnerable thing to say. I recognize in some way, because I've walked through the mourning process, I used to hear people say it's so selfish when people take their life. They don't know what they're doing and how it impacts everyone left behind, which is that part. They don't realize what they're doing. But I don't think it's selfish anymore. I think it's people get to a place of feeling hopeless and they don't know what to do. And we also don't know what's going on inside one's brain and all of the different challenges that the pressures and the mental stress upon one's life. We don't truly know. So I've tried to remove, again, that stigma of selfishness labeling someone who has died by suicide, as well as I don't say the word commit anymore, because
that's important.
It's not a crime. It is something that it's a way someone dies. And so these little nuances have changed the way that I understand it and the way that I've healed from the pain of losing, my grandmother and others. But I can understand where someone would get to a point of being so lonely, feeling so hopeless that they feel as if there's no other choice. And so the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255, is there for you if you need help in any way. We want to say from our hearts as Bravemaker, your life is valuable. And if there's anything that we can do to help that, if you are struggling with these thoughts, please reach out. We are not, counselors or certified therapists anyway, but we're humans who value stories and value our fellow human beings.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought attention to language. Language is so powerful, and we could villainize people in our communities who are suffering with like mental illness. And it's like, why were we saying that for so long? And it's something that I hadn't even thought about. I'd use that phrase myself, commit. And I was like, it's not a crime, it's actually, something else. I'm glad that you brought that up. So people who have suffered, with thoughts of suicide or have made that decision, let's just change our language and just be more compassionate towards each other, because you never know, like you said, what people are going through.
Right on. Oh, this is so good. The time has flown by, Kyrstina.
I know.
Well, thank you for chatting with me. And it was so fun to talk about your comic book and all the different ways that we are facing and dealing with rejection and our hopes and dreams. And we can't wait to share Last Chance Charlene with you. We will be going into production on June 7th. Kyrstina plays Veronica, the talent manager of Charlene, and she's got a lot of fun, spicy takes, which is really exciting. So you'll be hearing from us. We have a partner with us, Alex Gonzalez, who will be doing behind the scenes most days of the film shoot. So every day, if you're following us on our Instagram, we will be posting all of our behind the scenes, stuff. So little interviews with the cast and crew. We don't want you to miss it. So check that out. And now it's time for Brave Faves.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
What you got, Kyrstina?
I want to encourage everyone, if you feel like you could be freer or you want to experience the freest version of yourself, go to acting school. I had no idea what I was in store for when I met Tony, but I have just been falling. I won't say that word because my mom could be listening, but backwards into the filmmaking world. And I met someone named JT. Shout out to JT, who introduced me to Empower House. And JT was like, if you're acting and serious about acting, and Tony had already thrown me into some projects, I was like, yeah, I'm in it now. She's like, well, you should take some classes. So I've been taking classes with Empower House Studio. I'm in the 3rd session, and I'm a different person. And Melissa, the instructor, she doesn't give 100% guarantee, but she pretty much looks you in the eye and says, if you commit to this program, learning the Meisner technique with me, you will be a different person by the end of it. And I'm only in the third session and I'm already changed. Like, I don't think I would have been dreaming about dressing up as Spider-Man and singing Nickelback on the corner. Like, what is going on? But I just feel so much more uninhibited than I did 3 sessions ago. So that's my Brave fave. Go to acting school.
That's awesome. Thanks for Powerhouse. That means we're going to get a better actor on Last Chance Charlene because of you all.
That's right.
PowerhouseActingStudio.com. That's fantastic. Okay, my Brave fave is a new show on HBO Max. I've been promoting HBO Max a lot. HBO Max, you should be supporting and sponsoring Brave Maker here. It is called Hacks, and oh my gosh, it is so great. It is a show about this aging comedian. She is dealing with the changing culture of the entertainment industry and comedy. And she then finds a young, kind of jaded 20-something-year-old comedian, and they have to work together and make their self, as women in the industry. It's just so fun. I love shows about the industry. That's why I'm doing Last Chance Charlene. It's got a little bit of an edge to the industry. So I love it. It's really fun. It's really smart. It seems really empowering. There's only 3 episodes out so far, but I've been laughing and loving it. So check out Hacks on HBO Max. It's really fun.
For sure.
All right. Well, that is our show. Our show is produced by Jessica Musgrave and Alex Todd. So thank you to you two for being with us, and Alex, who does our live quotes. Please go and check out our new, refreshed website at bravemaker.com. We want you to find out all about what we're doing. All of our podcasts are on there, including the Brave Maker podcast, which you're watching or listening to live right now, as well as the Wheel of Queens podcast. There is just some really fun stuff you can check through on our merchandise. You can also find our new online platform, which is our film festival. It's our 3rd annual film festival, and that is live on June 5th. You can pre-order about 30 different films, shorts and features, narratives and documentaries, animation. That's all available to you June 5th on demand through June 30th. I'm really proud of this website. I'm really proud of all of the films that have been programmed and curated by our team. It's all on bravemaker.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Brave Maker Film Fest. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We cannot do this work without you. Our gear, our insurance, all of the things that we have to be a company is because of the generosity of our corporate sponsors and individual donors. So if you'd consider being a part of our team, we would love that. We are also looking for donors and executive producers at a $20,000 level for Last Chance Charlene. You can do that right from your phone. Just type the word Brave Maker into your text and use 44321 to give a donation today, and we would absolutely love it. And you can sign up on our email list at bravemaker.com/buzz. Did I miss anything, Kyrstina?
Yeah, don't we have a birthday coming up? We got a Brave Maker anniversary coming up.
We do.
We do.
Guess how old we are, y'all?
We're turning 3.
The big 3.
We're just a baby.
Big 3. June 1st is our birthday, so happy birthday to us, to you.
Yeah.
And we're so happy that we get to keep doing this. We're still here. It's kind of like your baby, when you're a parent, you're like, my kid's still alive. I managed to keep my kid alive somehow when they're eating food off the ground. They're running into, crazy things on the street. And I feel
that was me.
Way, right? I feel that way with us. It feels as if somehow we made it. And pandemic be damned, we're here. We're gonna keep going. Everything we just shared, earlier. We're going to keep persevering because it's inside of us. We have to tell these stories and make it happen, right?
That's absolutely right. And whose story we're sharing next Friday?
Well, next Friday is not quite confirmed yet. We have one filmmaker who has a short film that's coming out, but I got to confirm all those details. We're going to start doing this at the end of our show because Kyrstina said, we need to forecast what we're doing next. And I said, you're totally right. So we will be at the end of every show, we will be forecasting what's coming up next. But until then, brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.